Hi, this is Debbie. Welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming, Urban Gardener. And if you see a little bit of some disturbed soil out there between my red cabbage, the red cabbage being right here, and you see some disturbed soil here and there, I've actually just direct sown some more red cabbage seeds so we can get some more red cabbage going. And also I'm going to do the same with the fairy round Dutch, but unfortunately I'm in the dark almost. It's very late in the evening on Sunday, June 26th, and we are just doing a little bit of some seed sowing out here in the garden, doing some fill-ins. I've planted some more dill. I'm getting low on dried dill, so I'm going to go ahead and plant a lot of dill so we can go ahead and get some drying going on. But was just checking all of the cabbages. All of them are doing great, except for a couple of places where we had one cabbage plant die out. And I had enough room in between them because I actually planted them really far apart from each other that I could actually get put in sometimes two. Like you can see there's one and two in between the cabbage plants that are still here. So we're going to have some more cabbage, hopefully, before the end of the season. We still have just a little bit of time for that. And of course, they are cold hardy, so they'll handle frost and even a light freeze sometimes. So I just went ahead and got those planted in there. We'll see if they come up. And a couple of days ago, I had planted some Ford hook, I believe it is, giant Swiss chard in between each of the cauliflower here because they're spaced pretty far apart as well. And those are beginning to come up. They're really, really tiny right now, so you can't really see them very well. But they're going to be a green variety of Swiss chard, a giant Swiss chard, but really supposed to be sweet, tender leaves that come up on them. So we've got that in there. And then, of course, this is the new row right here in between of the lettuce and the spinach that I had planted. So right here, I planted some dill in between my peppers, just in this area right here. And lo and behold, my red curry squash that I filled in just a few days ago is starting to come up. So we'll have some fill-in squash there. Of course, those red curries have gotten a good start because they did go ahead and come up and everything. And I did notice that the other squash as well, the yellow straight neck, I did some fill-ins there. Those are starting to come up as well. And finally, all of my dark green zucchini is up. So we have all of them out there where they're supposed to be. So that is exciting. And I did notice that my Daikon radishes, I had planted some Daikon radishes. Let me see if I can climb over into the garden and avoid stepping on anything because we're getting pretty tight on space. I did notice that those are coming up now. So you can see those are evenly spaced. I did that very carefully so that way we could have a good size on the Daikon radishes. So you can see those are coming up there evenly spaced apart. So we should have some of those. And I did notice all of my Shin Carota carrots are coming up all over the place. So those had fantastic germination. And it's even a little dry right now and they still had great germination. So that might be a winner on carrots, but we'll see how they continue to grow. And I did notice that the lettuce that I planted recently behind the others is starting to come up. If you can see those little bits of green. And my cilantro that I planted right in front of my steps over on the side, those are starting to come up as well. I am getting blooms, by the way, on my Yukon Gold potatoes. And I'm kind of surprised because some of them are still just now barely coming up. They've only been up a couple of weeks. Some have been up a little bit longer, but all in all together in the ground, they've only been in the ground for about 4 weeks, a month at the most. And they're starting to already get blooms, and so are my Kennebecks. But my Kennebecks are, of course, way bigger than these. They're still getting some size on them, so they've still got some time to get a little bit bigger. And I did space those apart pretty well because I only had one little bag of seed potatoes for these. So I've got them pretty evenly spaced apart. So that's why you see a little bit more ground between these than you do my Kennebec potatoes. But anyway, that's what I've been doing in here, is just doing some fill-in planting of some seeds and checking on everything that is growing. And again, it is late in the evening. And unfortunately, I just stepped on the fence. That happens when you have the garden fenced. Probably one of the reasons why I held off, but it's okay. I just spin it back up where it's supposed to be. And so just a little damage. But everything is looking so wonderful. Still just amazed at these peas. Climbing the trellises really well now. Getting quite some height on them. A couple of them are actually above 18 inches at this point, and that's all the height that's Cascadia peas and some of the other peas that I planted in here are supposed to get. The Super Snappy were supposed to be a lot taller than that, but looking like they're going to be about the same height. I'm not seeing any blooms yet, so they've got plenty of room to grow. I should be seeing blooms on them pretty soon, but right now they're not blooming anywhere, and they're still very, very lush and green. And I noticed that the new peas that I planted just about a week ago have came up. They're definitely establishing, and even the ones that are in there that you can't really see because they're between the rows and right up against the trellis are coming up. And I'm still planning on, I ran out of time this evening, but I'm planning on putting another row of peas right along the outside here, maybe even two if I can fit them in, and maybe another row over here in between, because I noticed I did have quite a bit of space in between there. So you can plant peas like that really thickly right up close together, because it doesn't bother them at all. And I got that tip from Suburban Homesteader Wyoming/Arizona, and I really enjoyed it last season, so we're going to do it again this season. And tomatoes are really taking off. Today it's only been 69 degrees and it's supposed to be 46 degrees tonight, but it didn't seem to phase. It was that same temperature last night as well. Didn't seem to phase anything, not even the watermelons and cantaloupes. They still put on some growth today, so I'm thinking the soil is still pretty warm. And it's starting to warm up a little bit this evening, so I'm not real sure it'll get to 46, but we'll see. Onions are looking better, definitely a lot better than they did last season, but I'm not sure if they're going to bulb up, so we'll see. I might just end up with green onions and have to do some dehydrating and make some onion powder and stuff like that. But I'm still hopeful that we get some good size onions out of these. Some of them are thickening up quite a bit, so we'll see. They got plenty of time to grow. They don't have to be in a hurry. There's a mixture in here again of the Stuttgarter, I think, that's an Amish onion, and the Pentium 2, I believe it is. And then we also had gotten some, I want to say they were just more Pentium 2s. We got a second bag and had went in here and put in some more onions. So we're up to about 215 right now. So should be some larger size onions. We'll find out as it gets later in the season. But again, the tomatoes are just looking fantastic. I did lose that one, but I do have another tomato that I had trimmed off. It was a sucker off of some of my other tomato plants. And I want to say it's either a yellow pear tomato or a sun sugar gold. And I don't remember which. I just kind of mixed them all together. So got those in some propagation just in a glass bottle in the window. And they have already gotten roots. I'm waiting till they get a little bit more established roots on them. The roots are still about an inch to an inch and a half long. So I want to get a really good root system on those and then get them go ahead and get it outside, so that way it'll replace the one that did die. And I think the one that did die was either one of my old German tomatoes, and I'd have to get in there and find the tag. There is a tag on it. It's either an old German or a giant ox heart. So I think it's one of those two that did die, and you can see it right back there that did die off. It's right in between. And so I'm just going to get in there and get it replaced and continue on with the growing season. Now the exciting thing is today I noticed on my Sun Sugar Gold as well as my yellow pear tomatoes that we are actually getting some little tomatoes. You can see, I hope you can see that there is one right there. See, there's two actually. So one of them came on today. So we've got some yellow pear tomatoes already. And that wasn't the only ones. And I'm so shocked because they've only been in the ground for less than a month. And of course, that was the seed that I started, the seed that I saved. And they're just taking off. And this one is, I believe, another yellow pear. And I did notice blooms on it, as you can see right there. And I believe it had some tomatoes on it. It's getting so dark I can't really see at this point. And here is another one. And you can really see the tomatoes on this one. So definitely looking beautiful. We had a lot of wind today because it was cooler. No rain or anything, but just a lot of wind. So we got a little bit of damage on some of the tomatoes. You can see that one kind of bent there. So a little bit on that. The one that I had broken a couple of weeks ago, or actually about a week ago, has already started another branch. So I let a couple of the suckers come on that one because I did break the top on it. So the suckers are taking the place of the top and it'll branch off. And I'm thinking about doing something that the gardening channel with James Prigioni did this season, is that he branched off and did a tomato plant with 2 branches and staked each one of those. So I'm going to do that with this one, see how it does. I did do some pruning today of the tomato plants. You can see there, this little pile of vine. I went in and trimmed a lot of the lower stems off of the branches so they get some more airflow in there, especially ones that were not going to actually have any fruit on them or anything like that. So I trimmed those out, and then I have cucumbers planted at the base of most of these tomatoes. Let me see if I can show you one right there. So we have cucumbers and the tomatoes together, and I successfully did that last season with my lemon tree. So we'll see how they do with the base of the tomato plants. I haven't had any issues so far, and I do plant cucumbers in with my tomatoes in the main garden, so I've not had any issues there. And they were the white spine cucumbers or the white cucumbers, either one, and I didn't have any problem with that. So I just went ahead and did that in the pots because we have a lot of compost and organic fertilizers in each one of these containers so they continue to feed. And I also have the spikes that I sometimes put in there as well. But I haven't had to do a whole lot with them this season. We've got loads and loads of growth. I did put a little bit of bone meal on each one of the tomato plants at the base, and then just kind of swished it into the soil. So that definitely probably did a little perk up on them, but lots and lots of green growth on them. Loads of leaves. They're looking like absolutely beautiful plants, and these were mostly seed that I started. The only exceptions was the San Marzanos that I picked up, and that was just because they were basically on sale, and I just happened to come across them, and they're doing wonderfully as well. They're just a much shorter plant so far. Here's another one of the yellow pear tomatoes, and I did just trim off the bottom of it, and again you can see cucumbers down there at the base, and this one is starting to put tomatoes on too. So we're getting a lot of pollination this season. I've noticed a lot of mason bees and loads of honeybees this season. And of course we have like a honeybee company very close by, a couple streets over. And they're within about a mile and a half of us. So I think a lot of those honeybees come here because they know, I guess it's been programmed into them at this point, even though it's different bees, that I have loads of garden stuff out here with flowers on it. So they come here. And then I got some two of the clearance hibiscus trees at Walmart recently, and those have been blooming like crazy. And I have had some hummingbirds come by, and I've been trying to get hummingbirds here for a while. So I've got 2 little hummingbirds that are coming. So I went and picked up a hummingbird feeder. I don't have a larger hook right now. I'm trying to get one of those, and I haven't found one anywhere. A lot of shortages out there, even of gardening supplies. So I got a little hook left over from last season, so I just went ahead and hung it there, and they have been using it. So you can see it's about halfway down. So they've been coming by and using it. They were drinking from the salvia plants and from the hibiscus plants until I put the feeder out, and then of course they're hitting that feeder pretty heavy at this point. And of course we have hummingbird moths that have been coming by late in the evening, so we've been enjoying watching them. Our cottonwood trees that are all around us are blooming right now, and I guess seeding, because they have loads and loads of fluff floating through the air. It kind of looks like fairies when it's during the day and you're standing out here, of just fluff floating on the wind. And everything out here in the herb garden doing fantastic. But like I said, we were just filling in with a lot of seeds and starting more dill and doing all kinds of things like that. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out, and we shall see you on the next one.